fortunately, but it's good enough for them. So you have to learn how to interpret the data as well. And you can't measure the same many different languages with the same measure, because there's also that kind of cultural aspect.
The same line, especially to you, Eva. You said that, and I'm combining here the Silvia's comment about quality at source and your comment that you have two teams that are not integrated, that are essentially communicating the same thing to the general public. So here we have several players in this process, and my question has to do, who is the person that evaluates the quality brief? Is it the distributor in, Hungary that will say, well, the messaging is inconsistent between the software and the marketing material or the training material, or is it the end user, and is there a feedback from the end user that comes back through the distributor to you? Is there any value in this process? And tied to that, you also mentioned that you have metrics, that you're trying to implement metrics. Is your goal to find a number? So if you are 97, you're good. If you're 96, you're out.
Actually, let me start with the second question and then I'll answer the first one. Our goal is not so much numbers. What I want to see is the trend. When I can collect statistical data for, let's say, 2 or 3 quarters, and then I can see, okay, either there is improvement, or the vendor is staying about the same level, or it's going down. And usually the numbers can give you some kind of indication, oops, there's something wrong. What is wrong? Is it the process? Is it the people? And then you can pinpoint the area for improvement where it's not going as well as it should, or it's actually declining without us noticing. Because, if you get feedback from someone, people very rarely send you an email when things are going well. Usually they send you emails and complaints when they're unhappy. But that is also a skewed view, because we might have done 100 projects for them. One of them wasn't that great because of, high volume, tight deadline, and it was only 90% there. They complain, and now it seems as if the whole language is wrong. But it's not. It's really just that one project, and I'm hoping that this kind of statistical data can show us the trend, so that we don't discount one reviewer, one vendor, one translator based on one job, but we can actually see the progression. And to your first question, fortunately, even though the teams are separated, what the product localization does is really only the product itself. And our products are so highly technical that there is really no messaging there. What they do is UI, the software documentation, and online help. While we really focus on marketing, on the messaging, or on building the brand, or announcing products, on building awareness. So even though we sometimes reuse some of the same product terminology, most of our focus is really very highly marketing and sales oriented, while theirs is very highly technical, nuts and bolts of the products. So the overlap in messaging is not there. Of course, we need to be better integrated, and it's hurting both teams that we are not sharing everything, that we don't work with the same translation libraries, we don't reuse everything, but we are at least working together on some terminology initiatives, and we try to get translation memory done from that a couple of times a year so that we can reuse. Does that answer your question?
But you guys are in the same global content management system.
No.
Is there an initiative to process
That team decided as the LTMS is cracked and they don't want to use it, basically.
Is that why you're changing?
No, we're changing the web content management system, not the globalization management system. Yes, unfortunately, they tried develop something in-house and they realize it's much worse than...
The comment that I was going to make is that very often, and this is not, it's very typical in the industry, is that the source is cracked, but nobody complains about the source. When it goes into language, it's just a reflection of that, what happened, what is happening. Nobody pays attention between the consistency between the message and it's a masculine in the UI and it's feminine in the marketing stuff. In English, it doesn't show up, but it shows up in the other languages. So the problem is usually at the source.
Are they, even though they are not using our global content management system, they are using author assistant. So they are controlling the source. Plus, the TechPubs has a very good and quite well-developed initiative on generating XML-based content and using data. So even though we're not integrated, they are doing a lot of stuff, data, author assistant, to address the issues right at the source. Better than us, actually. No, not for marketing.
Are you using Xerox?
No. It's all old style, old way for marketing. Creating content in Word, dumping in it to InDesign templates, and then localizing it, unfortunately. That's why it was one of the bullet points where we need to go on our side of the organization too.
Just to start.
Is it not working?
No.
¿Hay otro?
I will try to speak a bit higher. Well, just an experience we share with our customer when discussing about source and also legacies. Many times the customer recognize that these kind of things have to be fixed, but it's often a budget issue. So the question is how much time, how much resources, and how much money, as a matter of fact, you have to devote to fix legacies and to fix sources. And that's, I would say, particularly these days, a really important factor. So sometimes, vendors have to leave also, and everybody knows that the source is not perfect, everybody knows that the legacy is not perfect, but in the end, well, you have to live with that because there is a budget issue. So that's often an answer or a comment, a discussion we have with our customers. I don't know whether you have the same discussion internally about fixing legacies or fixing sources, and whether budget also affects the decision of fixing it.
Actually, we have done it twice, but we're in a very lucky position that we have our own separate localization budget that we manage, and we also pre-separate a small part of it before we divide it between Latin America, Europe, and APAC. We separate a small part for departmental expenses, which for us includes technology and kind of these quality management initiatives. So we've done it in two phases. First phase was when we were collecting translation memories to dump everything into TMS. We did the first cleanup. And in case of Japanese, we actually decided not to accept any legacy memories and built our memories almost from scratch, so that only reviewed content went into TMS. We were not able to reuse a lot of previous translations, so it was a little bit more costly for us, but we knew that eventually, long term, it will be cheaper for us because we would be saving review costs. And we have actually decided to do another cleanup of our existing memories in Q1, but we did run into budget issues. The vendor who is doing it, SDL, for us underestimated the total price and the total volume of work. So for the price that we agreed on to do all languages, they've only managed to do half. So we're still stuck with the second half that needs to be cleaned up, but we do not have the budget right now in this quarter because we're doing so many product releases that we have to wait until next quarter. So it's a pretty costly exercise. Yes, it is quite time-consuming. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, resource consuming.
Yeah, resource consuming. That's why we outsource it to them, but unfortunately, we only got half.